Hi everyone, it's Allie and I am here for my fourth attempt over the last week to record this video. This video's cursed. I don't know why. It's my next installment of the Everything I've Learned from video series, and today, you know from the title, I'm doing the Spacious Tarot by Carrie Mallon and Annie Wright. I'm not quite sure how to say her name. I love this deck. I was an early adopter. I was a Kickstarter backer for this deck, and I knew I wanted to get it in this series at some point, but I did notice that someone on Facebook in the last month, I've been trying to film this for ages, had said that they were actually struggling working with this deck. And I find this deck a really great reader, a really easy reader for me. So I thought it would be a prime candidate for my next video in this series. So if you are unfamiliar with the series, what it is I don't do a full walkthrough, although I will link to one below so you can see all the cards if you want. But I just pick out cards that really speak to me in this deck and how I read them. Like with all my decks, I sometimes refer to the guidebook, but not a ton. And this one was just such a easy breezy reader for me. I haven't used the guidebook much, although it is excellent. When I do look at it, I think, oh, I should look at this more because it's so good. So yeah, that's the idea. And then if you don't want the deck, you can maybe apply some of the thoughts about these cards to the cards that you already do have. And the other thing I'll say about this, so that I don't say it 100 times in the video, you know me, I probably will anyway. But what I really like about this deck is the total lack of people. There go my dogs, being ridiculous. The total lack of people, which means that you can really easily put yourself into this deck. So it's a great deck for path working. Like, you become the figure that is so often depicted in, say, the traditional Waite-Smith system, which is really fun and cool and awesome. So as I start, I'm going to start with the majors, and I'll go through a few select cards from each court. But the Fool card is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. So you're on the precipice. We all know the traditional Waite-Smith imagery of the Fool. Shush, dog. I know. Shush, shush, shush. What do you want? I don't want to start this again. Stop. Just be calm. Sometimes if I don't pat him, he barks. It's ridiculous. Like an emotional terrorist. Anyway, Fool, who is on the precipice of a journey, and now you are on the precipice of that journey. You're not quite at the edge the way the traditional Waite-Smith Fool is, but in order to see what's down there, you gotta go to the edge. Is there a yapping dog? You get to decide because you're the figure. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't. And it just lends to the incredible versatility of these cards, because depending on what comes out around them, you can really make those decisions. So you need to be quiet. Shush, shush, shush. Oh, God. There you go. Settle down. Sorry, they were chasing a cat and now they're all riled up. So the Fool, isn't it gorgeous? A lot of the cards in the majors in this deck are ones that don't particularly move me. Just, they're not my standard must-have, perfect or I don't want the deck cards. And this one actually is really straightforward if we're talking about open spaces and what could they be, but come on. The Hierophant, of course it is. We have a sunrise, right? The sun coming up over, some standing stones, maybe Stonehenge. But again, they're nondescript enough that you could apply it anywhere in the world. This idea of ancient wisdom, ancient ingenuity coming forth, both the sun and the moon being on the card at the same time, right? Both the knowledge of the day and the mysteries of the night. I just think it's so great. And I like it better than the sage on the stage teacher sort of teaching. I just like this imagery a lot. And isn't it so pretty? It's such a beautiful deck. Again, the days are getting shorter here and my life is so busy now. I'm almost always filming at night, I feel, so the lighting's kind of crap. The Lovers. God, I love this Lovers card, because while I do love the Lovers for a romantic reading, it's this exchange of energy, this fiery spark, and it doesn't have to be a romantic or sexual relationship. It can be like a real meeting of creative minds and creating something new, right? And having that interplay. It also looks like a double helix strand, so it could be like lovers, this sort of generational lovers. I've talked about it before. I'm not really a big twin flame person. I don't really believe in any of that, but that for this moment that the lovers are together, they create something unique and beautiful and full of energy and electricity. And maybe that moment is a lifetime. not great, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just this encounter and then you go on from it. But I just think it's so simple and yet such a gorgeous, gorgeous interpretation. And now there's a cat coming in. Okay, the Chariot. Again, this idea where you are the person moving, right? You're in the card and you're making the things happen. This one's really meaningful to me because there is a river like this close to where I live in this giant gorge, and it's just so beautiful, and I've been on it, and it's just really exciting to take this path. It's so bright through the rocks. You can get the sort of shadow there, but you don't know what's beyond. You have to go in that direction. But I also like that while you are steering your own boat, there's a current underneath you, and you can read this card one of two ways. Is there a current pushing against you, or is the current moving you forward? Like, what's happening with your Chariot? And again, I find this deck is so good just with, looking at the cards around it and letting the card take shape in front of me depending on what's there. It's just so fun and so good. Now, y'all know how I feel about a Strength card. It's so perfect because in this card, what is strength? What is the interpretation we're going for? Is it the cactus, right? So the cactus, this incredibly resilient plant that grows where most other things cannot. Is it the flower on the cactus, right? This little sense of beauty amidst all these prickles. Is it a combination of the two? Is it the desert itself? I have this really deep, passionate love affair with the desert. I don't certainly live in a desert area, but the first time I went to New Mexico was a really spiritual experience for me. It was so beautiful. And then I went down to Baja and all these different places, and just the desert's so incredible. Beyond that, look at that storm system rolling in. And if you've been in a storm in the desert, you know the strength of that. So again, so much possibility for you to read depending on the situation, depending on what your querent asks, depending on what you're looking for in your card. It's simple. And I think that's what throws people off at first, and they feel anxious about reading. But for me, these cards are so rich. Wheel of Fortune. What I really like about this Wheel of Fortune, and many decks do this, but it balances the Wheel of Fortune, right? I think it can be very tempting to think of, oh, I'm at the top of the wheel, I'm at the bottom of the wheel, and the bottom of the wheel sucks and the top of the wheel is good, which, often that feels like that. But these are all necessary here, right? Like all of these stages are necessary as you go through, from the spring berries to the blooms to the flower, or the fruit rather, and then to the fall and the regeneration over time, the death and rebirth. And they all are necessary. And there we have the spiral in the middle. So pretty. Okay, this is another card that doesn't usually move me one way or another in the deck. There's only one other deck I have where I was like, oh, I must have it because of the Hangman card. And it was the Whispering Spirits Tarot by, oh shoot. It'll come to me. Sorry. Whispering Spirits. She also did the Mons Tarot. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. I love that Hangman, and I loved this Hangman, which is in this deck, the Hanged One. Oh. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like when you look at the earth from a distance, it looks inanimate. It looks like it's not moving. It looks like a hangman who's not doing anything, not moving anything, not changing anything. But from being on it, you know that it is constantly turning and moving, and it's just teeming with life, abundance and life. And so from the outside, it may look like nothing's happening when you're in that hangman position, when you're just still and quiet, and maybe you even want to move forward and you can't. But that is such a valuable time. And it doesn't mean that nothing's happening. It just may look to outsiders like nothing's happening. And it just knocked my socks off, that card. I love it so much. Maybe my favorite hangman, although Whispering Spirits it's a pretty good one too. Okay, I just threw this one in because I love it. Did I really learn anything from this death card? No. I mean, the death is such a complicated card and just so rich and layered and textual and meaning. But I think how she expresses it so simply here is just so beautiful. I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't like 1,000 tattoos of this card. If there aren't, there probably should be. I don't have any tattoos, but if I did, oh man, I just love it. And finally, the Star. I just love this Star card. And again, the colors are just beautiful, and my light's not picking them up very well. But, you know, you're in the middle of the forest and it's very dark, and it can be sort of a scary time, although you can also find deep beauty in it. But then look at this light just beaming down from far away. It's not like a big showy light like the sun, this whole look at me, I'm a naked baby on a horse kind of energy, but just this like intense, powerful, pinpointed, joyous energy lighting up the beautiful woods around it. The Star, man. Come on. And those are the majors that I selected. Although again, they're all great. I feel like I say it in every video. I could have done every card. It's because I could have. I really like these decks. So I'm not going to go in any particular order here. Swords was closest to me, so I picked that up. And it's funny, I use this, if you've been following my week ahead readings, I had this like series of really dark week ahead readings, and they were with this deck. I just really got into the groove, and I never wanted to stop using it. And so the Two of Swords and the Three of Swords came up, and I'm going to talk about them both today. So, and again, the lighting's not great, but I just love the duality in this Two of Swords cards. We've got the crossed swords, a very familiar image. And between them, we have the sunrise, right? The Two of Swords is a crossroads, sort of a position where you sit and contemplate, but there is movement. And we know that it's not totally winter because we've got a melted ocean there. So when the sun rises, some of this snow is going to melt, and this chute coming out of the snow is going to get a little bit bigger. Like the change is afoot, right? You're going to have to pick your road and go on it, because otherwise you're going to be left behind. And I like that sense of motion in the Two of Swords. I like that little bit of urgency in there, really works for me. The Three of Swords. I mean, again, it's not a groundbreaking thing, but I love this idea of the cracks in the ice, because again, it's this idea of motion. This is a much more painful card, right? We've got a little bit of blood, right? So symbolizing that sort of swords through the heart imagery from the Waite Smith. This is a much cooler sunrise. If you live in a cold climate, you'll know that a pink sunrise is often quite cold. And I do, and I know. But there's going to be, again, movement here. This is always a card of transition. This Three of Swords energy never lasts. Either the cold sunrise is going to come and the day will stay cold and the ice will refreeze and you won't see those cracks anymore, or the ice will melt and will become something new and something different. And then that was just part of the cycle, and it needed to. The Three of Swords energy is super tough to get in a reading, but I like this card. It just really talks about the feelings of now, right now, and what it feels like right now to be in the Three of Swords. But it doesn't last. It never lasts in that way, that intense, painful way. Likewise with the Ten of Swords, we've got a lot of swords in this tree stump. But what I also really like about this is like the damage is already done. It's already a stump. Right? And so these attacks like are almost coming after the fact, and they're not penetrating that deeply either. So while these sort of slings and arrows of life, as Hamlet would have said, you know, these swords seem to keep coming, like what's left of you is your strong roots, right? Like that's there, and those swords can't get anywhere in there, right? You've gone through something major, the tree is gone, the roots remain, and your strength remains. The foundation of what you are remains. And those Tens of Swords, you'll get past it. Cat and dogs, cheapers. Anyway, the strength remains, you'll get through it. And you just have that sense that they're just not going to penetrate any further, and that they'll fall away. So I love that Ten of Swords. And finally, for my court card for the swords, oh, I may not have a court card for every suit. It just occurs to me. Anyway, whatever. I'll do the ones I've picked. So the courts are renamed in this deck, and the Explorer of Swords is the Knight of Swords. And boy, do I love this for the Knight of Swords. And in the court cards, they're all dedicated to one animal. So here, they're birds, ravens, I think, on the swords. And you know, the sword is this idea of the intellect, using your mind, but the Knight of Swords also really can charge in, be foolish, And this is a precarious position that right now is being managed very well, but it has this potential risk to it, this tripping risk, this falling risk, not dissimilar to the Fool's little cliff there. So I think it's really a good cautionary tale for the night to use that forward, really intellectual energy, but don't rush in, right? Fools rush in. So I really like it. Okay, Kat, are you staying or are you going? You can stay up here if the dogs are bothering you, but here, sit down there. Pentacles. Oh, I really like the Pentacles in this deck. Ace of Pentacles. It's a key. It's a maple key that's going to find a new root somewhere, right? The Pentacles are of the earth. And of course, I'm Canadian, so there's a lot of maple trees. Hi, kitty. And it's going to fly away and it's going to twinkle down somewhere else and put in its own root and grow. So what a great example for the ace, right? The thing that's just going to be a new spark, a new grounding energy in your life of the material life. So I think it's perfect. Okay, you're very cute. Four of Pentacles. This is a similar one in that it's about taking root. I mean, all of these are sort of quite grounding and earth-based because obviously it's the Pentacles. But here, like, pine cones are seeds and they need to fall. And we can tell that the tree has lost its needles and it needs to let these go, right? So if you think about the traditional Four of Pentacles, like hoarding resources and materials, it's not going to get you ahead in the long run, right? Like, this is a cautionary card. The Four, I think, is really a cautionary card about you're thinking you're getting ahead by hoarding, but that's a real diminishing return, right? The real return would be to let these go, let them seed, and then grow up into new, stronger, healthier trees. So I think it's a great metaphor. We have another, I went out of order. I got them out of order there. So this is the Three of Pentacles. Again, this idea of the collaboration of the Three of Pentacles I love, because if you've ever read The Secret Life of Trees, it's all about the intricate communication systems that happen within forests through root systems. And it's just, again, a fantastic metaphor. There's what we see on the surface, three trees growing separately, but underneath, it's all this work that goes in underneath. And I often talk, I feel like I've talked about it in this channel, how like one of my favorite things to do when I go to the movies is stay through all the credits, like, and just see all the people that were involved behind the scenes, the roots that you don't see. You see the actors, and if you know about movies, maybe you're looking at like camera angles and editing and things like that, but it doesn't take into account things like, you know, the craft services people and the grips and all these different things. So I just love that as a representation of the work that goes on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see. Okay, you're so affectionate. Boy. Okay, Seven of Pentacles. This one's really straightforward. I didn't really learn anything, but it's October and there's a pumpkin and I love it. And the pentacles are at different sort of colors signifying different ripeness. This one isn't ready to be picked yet, but isn't that a perfect October card? I mean, come on. Couldn't not put it in here. And my court card for this one is the Guardian of Pentacles. So this is the renaming of the Queen. And so all of the pentacles are bears. And, you know, we've got this sort of mama bear in the fall looking after her pentacle, right? Which is a perfect metaphor for how bears are so protective of their young and taking care of them and sort of watching into the dark woods and being ready for everything, but also being super confident in knowing that she's got anything coming in her way. The cat's now lying in my arms, so I'm going to do this one-handed. Look at that. Okay, wands. So the Ace of Wands, I mean, what can I say? It's a spark. It's a little spark. But I just love how everything around it is darkness and it is providing light, right? Like that passion. And look at it like filtering off and going in different directions. I just love the quality of the flames that come through this entire suit. I do think this is the pippiest of the suits by far. And I can see why people maybe struggle with the wands a little bit in some cases. Here we've got the Five of Wands. And what I really like about this Five of Wands is the conflicts in the wands are futile. Sorry, I shouldn't say every conflict, but I feel like the Five of Wands, if you look at it, it's like a bunch of young guys like peacocking around each other and just like showing off and acting all tough. And this is like, we've got some wands extinguished and some wands lit. And the ones that are extinguished are burnt out, but they're still just like all going in different directions. They're all still equal. They're all still in the fight. Like, it just seems like an exercise in futility to me, the Five of Wands. So I thought it was a really good representation. Oh, I've only got one more wand. I was going to show one more besides this. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. The Ten of Wands is this card I really like because, again, it puts you right in the feet of the person in the card. So it's your vision that's being obscured by the wands. And where are you going? I mean, again, it doesn't look uninviting because we've got those lovely warm colors. And the wands are different, like you're carrying maybe different burdens. And it's maybe going to take you a while to get there. But in a reading, it's so valuable to be like, okay, well, what is it that you're carrying is obscuring your view? To what extent are you comfortable with carrying these things? What might the two different colors represent? Is this, like in the five, are the black ones burned out and the white ones unburned as of yet? Like, and again, even that has got a bunch of different interpretations. So they're just so flexible and freeing using these cards. Just love them. And my court card for this one. So this is the Salamander Court, and this is the Child of Wands. So, right, little salamander making his way up to the top of the wand and not really understanding the power of what he's got there yet, right? That sort of youthful passion, that youthful energy, not understanding that he maybe doesn't want to go all the way up to the flame as a little salamander, but he's on this adventure of passion and inspiration and excitement. And I just think the simplicity of this card and just sort of working his way up, I really dig it. And finally, the cups. Oh, I have a lot of cups. Did I mean to pull this many cups? Oh, I guess I did. Oh, well, I really like the cups in this deck, apparently. That's only 5, but... So the Ace of Cups. I've got a couple of aces in this one. And what I really like about this Ace of Cups, it's so simple, right? Like, big deal. It's a cup. Well, woo-woo. But if you look at it closely... Okay, so we've got this at the bottom, which could be fog, obscuring your view. It could be water, right? The water that pours out of the Ace of Cups. And then if you look through the cup, it's how you see the mountain behind clearly. Everything else is obscured, but through the cup, it's clear. It's like, this is your emotional ace, right? The thing that's going to spark you on this emotional journey, and to trust that emotion because it leads you clearly ahead to the path. I really like that interpretation. Sorry, if you can hear a thumping, it's because my cat's thumping her tail on the table. I can't cope with all the animals. Okay, the Three of Cups. I just really like this one because the Three of Cups are all different, but they're all doing the same thing. They're all sort of contributing to this larger pool of water at the bottom. And they all have a similar design on the outside. And I really do think it's nice for that emotional Three of Cups meeting, that it's 3 different people coming together, right? That you just recognize differences and you still have your little dance if you're thinking of the Waite-Smith cards. But you recognize and celebrate each other's differences. And that seems really straightforward, but man, I tell you, in this day and age, when everything seems so divided, this is a really good lesson. I like it a lot. And again, because it's not people, like you can envision any people in your life in there, right? It doesn't have to be 3, female identifying people as it is depicted in the Waite-Smith deck. It certainly doesn't have to be 3 white people as is depicted in the Waite-Smith deck. So there's just so much versatility here. It's so glorious. The Eight of Cups I really like because without the person, it's really adaptable as to how you want to read the card, right? Are you walking away from these 8 cups as in the Waite-Smith deck so that you're going to leave this last cup behind? Are you going to walk towards them and pick up new cups knowing that you've got a pyramid of cups like in the Waite-Smith stacked up behind you and you're moving away? Have you come from over the mountain? Are you going to go over to the mountain? Now, this is one I think that does maybe have a more specific definition in the guidebook, but whatever. Like, I like just taking it as the cards fall and then reading it as part of a whole. And again, it's the versatility and the beauty of this card. And every cup is different, like the design of every cup, handle, no handle, how tall it is, how round it is. So the variety of things that you can read into this card is so good. Now the Nine of Cups, this really hit me. I just really like it a lot because I do feel like it offers much more than the traditional Waite-Smith Nine of Cups. So we've got your abundance, right? Your happy dude just sitting in the middle of the cups. But I also love the fragility in this card, right? We've got the dandelion getting ready to puff and blow away in different directions. And we've also got the tide coming in, or that's how I perceive it anyway, the tide coming in, and it could draw all these cups away. And just a reminder that these moments of plenty are something to be really celebrated and happy about, but you can't sit on them for too long and just be satisfied and think that they're going to last forever, right? They're not. Like everything, they're transient. And it's a good warning, I think, about complacency. Like, look how beautiful it is. Enjoy it, but just don't rest on your laurels and just assume that you deserve it. It's going to last forever. No effort needs to be put in, no consideration of others, that kind of thing. That Nine of Cups dude can be a bit self-satisfied, and I really like this interpretation. And finally, last card, I think this one is actually going to work. It's the Child of Cups. And instead of the person looking at a fish, it's a fish looking out of his little cup. And obviously there's a fish looking out of the cup too, but when you take the human out of it, right? So it's a cup full of water and the fish can live in his cup full of water, but beyond that water, it's a whole pond and he can go and swim around if he has the confidence to follow that emotion. So if you think about the Ace of Cups saying, here's your mountain, you can see it clearly, trust that emotion. We're back with that child. Is he ready to leap out of the cup? And yes, he is. In the next cup, in the night card, he's out in the next card. So, yep, he is. And there's so much child, you know, the spring blossoms and the lily pads. And I love the idea of the fish being the central character in this card. So that is the Spacious Tarot. I'm so pleased I did it because now we're into October and now I got to do some Halloween stuff. I mean, come on. I was really pushing the envelope on this one. So there will be more coming. I am going to talk about, I'm going to do another one of these videos this month, hopefully, where I talk about a Halloween deck. Finally, we're in October. I can't believe it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll link a full walkthrough below. I'm sure there's tons on YouTube, but it is really a gorgeous deck and I love it. And if you have in the comments, if you're like, oh man, I have trouble reading this one, I'd love to hear about it. And maybe I can offer some insight on some cards, but I just find this one a real easy breather for me and just really reliable. So I hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day and we'll see you soon.